Broadcasting from the Business RadioX studio in Alpharetta, it's time for ProfitSense with Bill McDermott.
Good morning. Welcome to ProfitSense. This podcast dives into the stories behind some of Atlanta's successful businesses and business owners and the professionals that advise them. We help local business leaders get the word out about the important work they're doing to serve their market, their community, and their profession. I'm your host, Bill McDermott, and this show is presented by McDermott Financial Solutions. McDermott Financial helps business owners with profitability coaching, finding financing, and providing business financial physicals on their businesses. We have three great guests on the show today. I want to welcome each of them individually now. Kelly Taylor with Chrome Yellow Trading Company. Welcome to ProfitSense. So glad to have you.
Glad to be here.
Tim Ramsey. Tim is the managing partner with Bodker Ramsey, Andrews, Winograd, and Wildstein. Tim, so glad you're here.
Good morning, Bill. Glad to be here.
And Martha Schuon. Martha and her husband own Schuon Kitchens and Baths. They're a remodeling firm. Martha, so glad you're here on ProfitSense today.
Thank you. I'm glad to join you as well.
So, Kelly, I'd like to start with you. You and your husband, we originally met, I believe, through Samantha McElhaney, a banker who we both know. And you and I and Kyle, your husband, have started working together. I love what you're doing. I would like you to give our listeners an overview of who Chrome Yellow is and what you do.
Yeah. Chrome Yellow, we started almost 5 years ago. We now are a specialty coffee shop company in the Old Fourth Ward neighborhood of Atlanta. And we have a standalone building there. It is primarily cafe space. We work with a lot of amazing guest roasters. We have our own beans that we offer, and we also have a small retail selection, and we are always trying to use the coffee and the space to inspire and connect with our community. So that is just a big part of kind of why we started, is about trying to inspire and connect. So we mostly do that with coffee and our amazing staff and our space. People love to come be in the space and work there and have meetings. And so we use all of those things as our, as making our vision to happen.
Yeah, and I'm by no means a coffee aficionado, but I will tell you, your coffee is awesome.
Thank you.
I really enjoyed it when I was at your office. So going back to the very beginning, I'm really interested in understanding what was the inspiration behind Chrome Yellow and starting it with your husband.
Yeah. So my husband and I just had I believe it was like our 13-year anniversary. So we've been together a long time now, and we both come from a primarily restaurant hospitality background. When we met, we both always had a vision of starting a restaurant or some kind of a business like that. We like to create and to change spaces and to have kind of a gathering place for people. So we just come out of, several long years of some years at a certain restaurant with the Atkins Park Group and some other places that we'd both been with. And when we first started Chrome, we actually started a little more in the retail realm of high-end clothing, because I had a little bit of background in that. Uh-huh. And we were using the focus that we would do monthly events. And those monthly events is where, again, we came back to we need the higher pace of the restaurant world. We need to be able to connect with people more often than just these monthly events. Retail can be a lot slower, and we had tried it for a while, as a break, but we just came back again to those restaurant roots. And so when we did some short-term pop-ups and we did a lot of events, the events is where a lot of the magic happens for us. So when we found the space where we're at now on Edgewood, it just all clicked. It was like, this is the spot. We can join all of these forces together and have the space and have the vision and the community. We just hit it. It just all kind of happened at the right time. The community, that neighborhood needed coffee, needed a place for people to go and to work and to be together. And we were able to provide that at the time. I think hopefully I'm not just talking in circles there, but
no, not at all.
Again, it's just those moments where we can get people together and get the right music and the right lighting, and the staff is sweet and kind and listens to our customers. I mean, we just have the most amazing customer base, and I have to give all of our staff the credit for that. You know, they'll see a customer pull up and have their drink ready when they walk in. They memorize the orders. It feels like, our customers are friends. It's like family and friends now, and that's such an amazing feeling.
Yeah, and the energy that you get from your employees dealing with those customers, the relationships that have been built, and that's a special experience. I do want to talk about some of the first years starting out. You had mentioned the pop-ups. Can you tell me more about some of the short-term leases you did in the beginning while determining your permanent home and how the business has changed over the years?
Yeah, I would love to. I find this a really exciting thing that really helped us to figure out who we were and where we wanted to be. Commercial leases can be so intimidating, when you're dealing with large, bigger landlords of having to sign 3 to 5 year leases. It's just so intimidating, especially with everything that's happening right now, is, with the COVID and that, with COVID and things could come back at some point. There's like just so much concern and risk. And there already existed, that risk already existed for small businesses. We were fortunate to make a connection with Cartel Properties, George Roerig, and he had a space in Buckhead near the old Roxy block. And we were able to negotiate a very short-term 3-month lease to go into the space. And I remember we were working with a great commercial agent, a very good friend of ours, Barry Lebowitz with Camden Commercial. And he was just like, what do you have to lose? It's 3 months. Worst case, you lose out on the inventory, but you learn, like, do you want to be in this business or do you not? Is this location right or is it not? And I just always recommend that. And there's so many landlords now are very familiar with like pop-up and short-term leases now. That at that time, it wasn't as heard of, or as common, but it was huge. I mean, we quickly realized that was not our market. That's not where we wanted to be. Then we went and teamed up with Jamestown in the West Midtown area. And we had several years of successful pop-ups there. We did some longer term ones and did sort of it was like, rent was based on like a percentage of sales. Anyway, it was great because the risk was minimal and we were learning so much as we continued to do those. And then we did this very short-term pop-up. We did like a weekend. It was like 3 days in the old 4th Ward, very close to where we're at now. And the turnout was amazing. Within just 3 days, we were like, oh my gosh, this is our home. This is where we're supposed to be. It was amazing. Yeah. So, I always recommend that to, especially for people who are trying to start like a retail type business, because that's what we were doing more of at that time. It was definitely more high-end clothing and, designed goods and working with smaller makers. And but it was heavy retail. And removing even just a little bit of risk and fear from the situation just helped us to take that leap. And that was just huge.
Yeah. Yeah. So I know there's a lot of competition in the coffee business. I know what differentiates you in part is your coffee, because your coffee is excellent. But really, what do you feel differentiates Chrome Yellow from your competitors?
Yeah, I feel like that's a hard question. We have there's so many amazing coffee shops in Atlanta now. And we're great friends with many of them. I think for us, we, we're not always great at putting into words on like our Instagram and stuff, all of our thoughts and emotions all the time, but we try and show through action. Kyle and I are so adamant about friendly service, and consistent service. Like service is a huge deal for us. Like we want people to get their coffee fast, but also with a smile on their face. We don't want anyone we don't want a customer to come in and be scolded if they ask for Cool Whip or something, it's like, or what, we may not have it, but we're going to tell you in a nice way. Like, right. I think that's a very important thing because the coffee business can sometimes get, people can get so particular about what they think is the right way to serve a coffee drink. I just think that there's a way to do it. There's a way to offer an amazing product by being kind. And so our staff, we just have the most amazing staff. So I think the consistency and kindness of our staff is a huge one. And then my husband, I have to give so much credit to him. I mean, I wish he could be on this with me. His vision is so strong and so specific. And so he just like, everything has to be tuned in perfect. So he is always trying to get the most like beautiful, he wants a beautiful space with the exact, consistent lighting. And the right lighting, you can't, it's got to be the right lighting, or your brain waves get frazzled. I don't know if sure. So he's very particular. He's very in tune with that. But the music, the music is always a pretty similar, chill kind of vibe, so you know what to expect, and that's a huge thing. I think consistency again with product and quality and the environment is so huge. You can go and work there. You can have a meeting that's not going to be blasting heavy metal. It's not going to have the lights too high or anything. And so I think those are really important things. And then the way that he is always trying to tune in with what's going on in the community and the neighbors, with the neighbors around us, how to connect, how to give back. And I think those are all really important things. How we get that message across. Again, it's probably with less words, more action. We want to show you that we care, and here's how we're going to show you. And then he also designs just amazing products, T-shirts and the hats. And then we again try and connect with like the Giving Kitchen, which is a charity nearby that helps to give back to hospitality workers, and Portrait, this upcoming coffee shop that you were talking about that's going to be coming up in the West End, just all those ways of, again, connecting locally. I think those are all a big part of it too. Sure.
And so you've been successful despite the recent pandemic and these uncertain economic times that we all find ourselves in. Tell our listeners how you've really navigated all that, especially being in the retail business.
Yeah, I think that, one of the biggest things, again, from Kyle and I's background at other restaurants, especially our time with Atkins Park, that restaurant never closes. They're even open like Thanksgiving, Christmas, like they never close. Snow days, nope, we're still open. So we come from that background where you try and stay open no matter what. We're always, if we have to reinvent ourselves, do it. We have to change how the checkout procedure happens, do it. So that's what we did. We took a risk. Are people still going to be coming out for coffee? I don't know, but we have to try for a little bit. And more they showed, they still want to come out and get their coffee. They're actually going to come buy more whole bean coffee because they're going to brew it at home, but they still want to get out. And so we just were constantly trying to reinvent or just, make adjustments and, just work and think and figure it out, and I think that's, honestly what we did. It's like every day was so different in the beginning. You never knew what to expect. We're just watching the news. Are we going to get shut down? We'll wait and just be as safe as possible to protect our staff. But we essentially were able, fortunately with the way our lot is situated, we were able to move our whole checkout and area outside of the restaurant.
Oh, nice.
Out of the building. So people will just, we also spent hours upon hours at night trying to change our online store to where you could just go on and pre-order. So it was, how can we make this, more accessible and keep it easy and still provide whatever, what we can to our neighborhood and community around us. So
that is great. And so if someone wants to check out Chrome Yellow, what are some of the best ways for them to do that? Location, website, Instagram? What's the best way?
Instagram, I would say, is number one, just because Kyle is always on there posting pictures and stories and sharing stories of customers who have visited. So you get a very good up-to-date view of what we're doing and what customers are thinking and enjoying from our space. And then our website, www.chromeyellowtradingco.com. And our Instagram is instagram.com/chromeyellowtradingco. Those are our two best places. We're not very active on Facebook. We haven't posted on Twitter in years. Those two spots. And we're not open for in-store visits yet, but we're serving coffee, every day. So you can check us out there too.
Well, it's been great having you on the show, Kelly. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
Just the atmosphere, the coffee, your staff, how you and Kyle successfully have managed the business during a difficult time. Y'all are to be commended. So keep up the good work.
Thank you, Bill. Thanks for having me.
And Tim Ramsey, I'm going to tell a little story about Tim and I. So Tim and I go way back. We've known each other probably for 15 years. Tim, you and I are ACCers. Tim did his undergraduate at Duke. Go Blue Devils. I went to Wake Forest. And Tim, I think Duke, especially in basketball, has had more than their share of the victories. So Coach K has just done a fabulous job with that program. But Tim and I have known each other through a group called the Atlanta Executive Forum. And Tim, so glad to have you on ProfitSense today.
Well, thank you, Bill. I'm glad to be here. And I'll share a story about Bill. I was actually with him. He's a great golfer, but I was with him when he scored his, I believe, only hole-in-one. So
only is correct. And
we had a good time. Very nice day.
So the baby boomer generation is looking at exiting their businesses, succession planning, management transition. You have certainly been an outstanding outsourced general counsel for quite a few of my clients. But I think more importantly, succession planning, certainly in the baby boomer generation, is very much top of mind. So I wanted to kind of begin the conversation, Tim, with succession planning. What is it? Why do you need a plan? And maybe then even a little more, what happens if you don't plan?
Right. Succession planning is basically putting some thought process into what's going to happen if you ever transition the business. Now, that can be a planned transition, or often it can be an unplanned transition. The goals that we're looking at are to try to maximize your recovery out of the business and minimize liabilities out of the business. So the situation that we run into often is where somebody calls up and they suddenly had a bad doctor's appointment, or they had another life-changing event, and they say, I need to sell the business immediately. Well, that makes it a little difficult to work with to accomplish those goals of maximizing recovery, return, and minimizing liability. So it's much better to have had that type of conversation in advance, done some planning, even taken some steps to start moving that direction, so that if something does happen, you can take care of it immediately, or you've got a planning process. Or for a lot of folks, it's more of a staged process. You may want to actually stretch it out over a number of years. You may have younger employees, other family members, folks like that. So that's really what succession planning, transition planning is all about.
And so you kind of talked about some of the stages. So what are the main categories or types of succession or transition events that occur?
Well, we see a couple of different ones. You basically can sell out your business where you just sell it to someone. You can merge your business or transition it where you merge with another competitor. You can do a succession internally where you bring folks up from inside and let them take over the business with you. Or the worst one, which unfortunately happens, you shut down the business. And that's not necessarily a bad thing. I mean, I've had clients that for various reasons, their business model just did not work. So it was just too much debt, too much liability. It was impossible. They actually went through some steps of trying to sell the business, and there just wasn't enough available interest or potential buyers to take that over. And so we ended up doing an orderly shutdown. It doesn't mean automatically bankruptcy, but it does mean shutting down in an orderly fashion and then trying to take care of your liabilities.
Sure. Now, for our listening audience, where this might be a new topic, if you decide to have either a succession or transition events, what are some of the key goals or some of the key motivating factors that a business owner experiences? Because I know you've done a lot of work in this field.
Right. Again, the two primary goals, number one, is to maximize value or maximize return. And that's a combination of factors. You've got immediate cash, so that if you're doing a closing and you are successful in selling your business, ideally that's going to generate some cash payment. So we look at it and analyze what that's going to look like after taxes. So you come up with a net amount.
Sure.
In many business transactions, there'll be some deferred compensation. That can be the promissory note, earn out, some sort of extended payment stream. And you have to look at those. Sometimes we refer to that as wish paper. You can count on the money that actually gets into the bank at closing. Mm-hmm. May or may not be able to count on the money that's promised later on. But we really look carefully at that, analyze the risks, try to work out a good plan on how to make that money most likely to be recoverable, and then how to move that forward. We also, as part of that, look at ongoing compensation needs and try to help folks plan for what do they need to maintain lifestyle? What do they need to educate the kids? What do they need to educate the grandkids? Because unfortunately, we find some folks think they're ready to sell the business. And when they actually start looking at the numbers and start thinking about, well, what am I going to do with the money I get? I'm going to put it in CDs or something, drawing 1.01%.
Yeah.
That really doesn't last very long. So
you're absolutely right.
Sometimes that. The other primary goal is liability reduction. And folks have to look very carefully at the liabilities they have with their current business. Now, that can include contractual liabilities, which would include things like lease guarantees or bank debt guarantees. Also will include non-contractual liabilities, which may be things like product liabilities if you were in a manufacturing business, installation product services if your company was involved in installing services or doing construction work, things like that. We have to analyze what those liabilities look like, try to figure out a way to either have the buyer assume those or compartmentalize them and try to reduce them on an ongoing basis. Because the money you get at closing, probably all you're going to get. We really try to hope that you don't have to give any of it back.
Yeah. So talking a little bit about the what and following on from maximizing value, I want to talk a little bit about the how. So if you have a business owner that wants to maximize value in a transition event, how does that happen? How do you help them make that occur?
Sure. Step one in maximizing, because it's absolutely amazing. We get the phone calls where I was playing golf with a guy today and he offered to buy my business, and they haven't done any planning whatsoever. They haven't thought about what it's going to be worth. They haven't thought about how to do it. Those are hard to work with. Or I get a phone call from a broker that's actually, well, we got somebody that's agreed to sell their business. They haven't done any planning for it, but they've already signed a contract for it. Those are hard to work with. It really takes we'd like to see a 3-year process. 12 months is realistic, kind of a minimum. But what we do is work with the accountants, work with your team of advisors. Accountant is right in the middle of that. Bank advisor is another one. Your operations folks, and start laying out a plan for how to do a sale, or if it's going to be an internal transition, how to do an internal transition. If that means getting your financial books and records in order, getting your business plan in order, identifying major risks, whether it's in your internally, where you have partnership arrangements and they may not be documented very well. We see these a lot where you have a disagreement among partners. Some are ready to sell out, others are not. You get employees. Some employees may be interested in becoming an owner. I've gone through situations before where they assumed that the employees were going to be more than happy to buy the business. And when they actually have the conversation, the employees had no interest at all in taking the actions, doing the steps necessary to actually buy the business. That can be a pretty daunting task for some folks to start taking on bank debt, taking on lease guarantees, trying to be responsible for employees and payroll and insurance. And not everybody's cut out to be an owner. So that planning and gathering that data with key advisors is an absolutely critical first step.
Yeah, that's a great point. So I know you also talk to your clients about doing a SWOT analysis. So what is that? Why should they do it? And then maybe why should, if they're thinking about selling, maybe even do it now?
Absolutely. SWOT analysis is a generic term for doing an internal analysis of the 4 key areas: strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. And you just sit down with some key advisors and talk about your company. What are the strengths of the company? What are some weaknesses? What are some opportunities? Okay. And Kelly had Martha had some great points a moment ago, Kelly did. And I know Martha's talked about, but some great opportunities, but you also have to look at threats. What are potential threats? Now, COVID, for about 90% of the world, nobody thought COVID would, nobody imagined that COVID would be coming. I will say insurance companies obviously knew something I didn't, because a lot of these insurance policies that you see, business interruption policies, actually have a pandemic exemption in them. But most folks don't really analyze their threats very well. So it's critical to go through that SWOT analysis. The follow-up on that is you talk to people about it, and a lot of times they say, oh, yeah, we did that at a partner retreat several years ago. And it's like, well, that's probably a good step. You need to do that regularly. If you haven't done it in the past year, it's stale. Given COVID, if you haven't done it in the past 90 days, it's stale. And you need to sit down with your advisors, do SWOT analysis. It's not a really painful, complicated matter. We just really sit down, generally get a whiteboard, start getting thoughts, comments, just get the conversation going about what these strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats for your company really are.
Those are some great points. So for a business owner that maybe is ready to begin the process, how do you get it started, Tim?
Again, we gather data. First step is gathering data. What we do is what we call a 360 review, and we ask the client to provide us with a good bit of information. Okay? Like to see the most current financial statements, ideally for the last couple of years. We like to look at tax returns for the last couple of years so we can get a handle on what's the tax structure of the company, what are the K-1s, if it's a partnership arrangement, whether it's a C Corp or not, what kind of distributions, compensation have been going out to individual owners, what the real net after-tax income has looked like, and how that may translate into valuation. We look at internal partner agreements, which would be either a shareholder agreement, if you have a corporation, operating agreement, if you have an LLC, maybe a partnership agreement, if you happen to have a partnership. We look at that and we try to identify who the key decision makers are and what kind of process we need to go through. And we like to see that we've got some unanimity among the various partners as to what the actual action plan would be. We also look at external relationships So we try to get an idea of what your upstream vendors, suppliers, contractors, lease folks, bank debt, get a handle on what those look like, what kind of liabilities there may be, what kind of guarantees there are outstanding. And then we look also at relationships with customers to see if you've given guarantees, if you're a manufacturing company, if you have warranties, if you've got compliance issues with different types of manufacturing. And then a really key component is we look internally at your employee relationships, because a lot of folks do not have any kind of employment agreements. They don't have policies and procedures. Those are the kind of things that you really want to take care of so that you can have a continuity of business in a sale. And it's really critical to have good employment agreements with your key employees, good compensation arrangements, understandings, and get an awareness of what kind of potential liabilities there may be there.
Yeah. Tim, those are great points. And certainly succession planning and transition planning is key. If someone wants to get in touch with you and the firm, what are the best ways for them to do that?
Email me is probably the easiest way to do it. tramsey@brawwlaw.com. Again, that's Ramsey, no periods or spaces, at brawwlaw.com. Or they can call the office at 404-351-1615. We also have website and Facebook. We're on LinkedIn as well. So any of those types of ways are great to get in touch with me.
Great. Well, Tim, it's been great having you on ProfitSense. Thank you so much. And thank you for your contribution.
And let me just add one thing. I'm always willing to talk with folks. No charge for the initial consultation. Absolutely happy to talk with you. If it's something I can help you with, be glad to do it. If it's something I can't, we'll be glad to forward you on. I will tell you that during COVID, we've given out more free legal advice than I have ever in my lifetime. But as a service provider and as a professional legal advisor, we feel it's a duty and responsibility to our society, and we've really bent over backwards to try to help folks through this difficult time. We're more than willing to help do that.
Well, thanks for sharing that. And I know from the clients that you and I have worked with together on, they've really benefited from your expertise. So thank you again. Martha Schuon, Schuon Kitchens and Baths, welcome. So glad to have you this morning. You and I met during COVID.
Yes.
The PPP loan program was a tedious process, a frustrating process, but amidst of those circumstances, new relationships were formed, weren't they?
Yes, they were. And we're very appreciative of that.
Well,
as a matter of fact, Bill, I just have to insert here. Tim said that he saw your only hole-in-one, but I know with our payroll protection program experience with you, I witnessed another hole-in-one.
Well, thank you for those kind words. You did a lot to make my job easier, as well organized, and all of the paperwork that was needed to make that happen, I knew was because of you. But I want to hear, and I know our listening audience wants to hear more about Schuon Kitchens and Baths. Really, where I'd like to start is, while the name's pretty self-explanatory, the remodeling industry does have a lot of players. Could you give us an overview of Schuon Kitchens and Baths?
Well, certainly. And thank you, Bill. We're pleased to be here today. And as you said, Schuon Kitchens and Baths does remodel kitchens and baths. But we specifically provide cabinetry, countertops, and we also perform construction, minimal construction when it's related to the kitchen and to the bathroom. But it's kind of interesting. Schuon Kitchens is a licensed contractor. We could do more, but we don't, because we also work with remodelers.
Sure.
So my husband, Hans, he founded the company in 93. So he's been in business in the greater Atlanta area for almost 30 years, excuse me.
Wow.
I know it's been a long time. So there's been a lot of evolutions. He founded the company in Roswell. He's in his third location, a much nicer studio that he has in Roswell. And he evolved over the years from a one-man startup to a very well-established business. Not only does he have multiple kitchen and bath designers who are working with clients, but he also has a manufacturing site located in Woodstock. And in Woodstock, we manufacture the Schuon custom cabinetry line. So we are also a provider of cabinetry in addition to the remodeling of the kitchens and baths. And this particular line of cabinetry, I just want to point out something. We have been regularly benchmarking this cabinetry against other lines. And we recently completed a benchmark against we tried to get similarly priced lines across the United States and Canada. And there was not another company that provided the first of all, the value and the quality, the myriad of colors, door styles, and other, things that you add into the kitchen related to the cabinetry. The customization level was so much greater and the price point lower. So we just went through this recent benchmark and we're kind of amazed that we couldn't find somebody to replace ourselves with. Not that was the goal, but you do that in a benchmark. So,
and with 30 years in business, you certainly have proven your value proposition. So that speaks for itself as well.
Absolutely. And prior to opening his shop, he continues to work with a couple of lines of national manufacturers as well. So he's a dealer in that regard. And I guess, the thing I would just say kind of about the overview is, we're in this business to do the remodeling of kitchens and baths, but really we're in the business to satisfy clients. The company has thousands of satisfied kitchens and baths. And if you've ever been through a remodel of a kitchen, that's a significant experience. So we have thousands of those, and we just can't stop until the client is satisfied. And there may be somebody out there, I'm not inviting you to call in, but out of all those clients, I think our track record is very, very high. So just real quickly, when someone is coming forward for a remodel, we meet with them. We talk to them about the scope of their project, their budget, and try to understand all of that. The next step is to go to the home and brainstorm solutions with them. Sure. And then proceeding with that client, we'll do a design for them. And then once they give the A-OK, the ordering and installation process occurs. And then you're a Schuon client for life. I have something I wanted to point out to you, but I'll wait on that. But you are a Schuon client for life. And many of our clients do multiple kitchens with us. We've got quite a few that have done a second kitchen. We have even others who've done a third kitchen. We have actually one client who has done 6 kitchens with us.
Oh my
Between,
goodness. Wow.
I know, having a move and having a second home and moving again and that type of thing, they were able to become our poster child for Schuon Kitchens.
Yeah, what a great story. So it seems like everybody was remodeling before COVID-19. How has the pandemic affected your business?
Well, it has definitely impacted our business. And I guess I'd just first point out that what we value people. So we value our clients. We value our employees, our subcontractors. And just a side note, we also value the ministries that we support. We support quite a few ministries with the profits from our company. Sunflower Ministries, which ministers to women fighting addictions. Hands of Love, which is a Uganda-based ministry. And then NBS to Go, which has Bible studies and also even teaches people to be literate. And they're all over the world as well. But our employees, we wanted to retain. And our clients, we wanted to let them do whatever they felt comfortable doing during COVID. So some of them said, I'm stopping. So we lost a lot of our backlog. And of course, a significant amount shifted out into the future as well. So
Sure.
We went from being very busy to not very busy. So those clients that wanted to proceed, we worked to expeditiously finish those kitchens that were in process and allow those people to get back into their kitchen. Can you imagine sheltering in place without a kitchen?
Right.
Although I've heard some people have done that. Then with our employees, we wanted to retain them. So in 2008, during that last recession, Hans had the same attitude, and he retained employees. He cut his own salary, and he created work and continued to pay people while we were going through that slow ramp up from the prior recession in 2008 and 2009. So in 2008, what he did was he went out and did warranty work with clients. We just called them up and said, "You're a Schuon kitchen. You installed your kitchen 15 years ago. We'd like to come out, and if there's anything you need adjusting or done, we'll be happy to do that." So we did that. And in this current pandemic, after we made the decision to retain employees, we found out about payroll protection. And as you know, we were the poster child for that, but our bank was not opening up for applications. And so once we got connected with you and you connected us with a myriad of lending solutions and did your magic, which, by the way, we still are so eternally grateful. Basically, receiving that benefit allowed us to continue to do what we purposed to do to begin with. So once again, we felt that we were a poster child for the program. Now we have really been able to leverage that. So the bottom line is, once Georgia started opening up work again and we could, initiate new business, we have become very, very busy. And the program has worked. I mean, exactly as I know the spirit of the program was intended when it was conceived on Capitol Hill. So that's how we've survived. We've survived by placing high value on people, clients, employees, subcontractors. And thankfully, we had the benefit of a program that we never anticipated. And we're back on track.
Yeah, that is great news. And it's great to hear that your business is coming back strong. Would you share with our audience the logic which you would help someone decide where to start and where Schuon Kitchens and Baths fits in all of this?
Well, that's a great question, because a lot of people use, you hear about interior designers, remodelers, you hear architects, kitchen and bath firms, cabinet shops. I mean, you hear about all these people who are doing kitchen remodels. And that's something I kind of struggled with, and I have to see the logic there. But the logic that I would share with you is that when a Schuon team member works with prospects, they determine the scope. So the scope is key. So if you really aren't in our scope and you came to us first, you've got a couple of options. We can continue to help you. If it's something that we don't do, we'll connect you with someone who does do it. For example, we don't do repainting of cabinetry.
Right.
But we know the best of the best in the Atlanta area who will repaint your cabinet. A lot of people just want to do countertops, so we can connect you with someone to do that. Sometimes people will want to do an outside addition or an entryway or something that's significant to the home. And if that's just all you're doing, then you would want to use an architect or a home planner. That's someone who's an architect that's not licensed. So then sometimes you have architect with a major change of your home, and you have a kitchen that's also going to be touched by that. That's kind of an in-between situation. You can use us for that. We'll bring in the architect. You could use the architect and they can bring us in, but we can tag team and do that together. So if you're wanting to do a kitchen and you're wanting it to really tie in with the rest of your home, like the fabrics, the colors, the lighting, furniture, all those things to tie in and go for the wow factor, then you might be wanting an interior designer. We have designers that we team with that we can bring in to help you with that. So you could come to us for that. Many times we'll have an interior designer that comes in with a shell design, and we do the fleshed out detail design for them and partner with them. And then remodelers. So if you've got projects that aren't related to kitchen and bath, go with the remodeler. But if they are, then you could call us to do. And if those projects include, like I said, with the architect, additional changes that are significant, that are outside of the scope of the kitchen or the bathroom, a remodeler really needs to be involved. We're just focused on kitchens and bathrooms. But because we team and we have associates who do all of these roles, we really can do anything. Yeah. So I would just invite anyone who wants to sort it out to give us a call, and we'll help them figure it out.
That is great. So next question is kind of a two-parter. First, curious to know what the value proposition is for remodeling a kitchen or bath. And then the second part is, I would be remiss if I didn't ask you, what are some of the craziest kitchen design challenges that you've seen?
Well, we have seen quite a few crazy things, but generally, just to get to the specific first, when you're going through a kitchen remodel, the value proposition that exists is partly based on the fact that you are improving the value of your home. And Hans and the team usually recommends that 12 to 15% of the current value of your home could be the budget that you would want to use for the kitchen and master bath remodel. That includes the cabinetry, countertops, tile, all the accoutrements, the appliances, the plumbing, the mechanical. And so that's just kitchen and bath. We have a current client in East Cobb that's moving a laundry room upstairs, widening a door, remodeling the kitchen. So they would be spending over that amount because of the fact that they're adding some additional small things to their package. And I just want to real quickly tell you about the crazy stories. One of them was mine. When we remodeled our kitchen, I didn't have a kitchen, and I was actually someone who said, why would somebody spend perfectly good money remodeling a kitchen when you can just invest that in the stock market and make money? Right. And when I retired, I started cooking a lot more, and I realized I am like the evangelist now for kitchen remodels, because we changed everything in our kitchen. We made it 50% larger, moving a laundry upstairs, and made a little entrance from my kitty cat to go out into the garage, into a cage area that had the litter box, a place for my purse, just all these little detailed things that we got to do and all of that. So I'm really an advocate for remodeling kitchens and baths. But you ask about crazy stories. There's a couple that come to mind. There was one woman who, in her kitchen, she wanted to have this huge faucet. Well, the design had been created. It's a logical design, but she had this really huge faucet, and it was not going to fit behind the sink between the wall. I mean, that's the only place it can go.
Okay.
So what they did is they ended up cutting out the wall about 3 inches, and they took that wall cut out all the way up to the ceiling, and then they tiled it, and they put decorative shelves in, and then it had a place for the faucet. She could actually turn on the water now.
Right.
And it ended up being this incredible focal point for her kitchen. It was just a problem, and it looked like it was insurmountable. It sounds like an easy solution, but it doesn't look that way when you're trying to figure out how to solve a problem, as you would imagine. And then there was a client at Lake Rayburn. This was a small cabin, second home. Yeah. And what they wanted to do was put everything into a 10 by 8 space. And there was a remodeler that was going to do the mechanicals. And Hans worked with these people, and he got everything in that kitchen. And the remodeler said, this isn't going to work. But they proceeded with the design. And I'm telling you, the client was highly satisfied. It's a small space, 10 feet by 8 feet. That's all they had. But that kitchen works. Then there was another kitchen. I love this story. This is one that was in Milton. This particular client had an L-shaped kitchen. And at the corner of the L, that's how you enter the pantry. And the woman She wanted all cabinetry. She had envisioned this beautiful L shape that's all cabinetry. So they tried to move the entrance to the pantry. It was a huge walk-in pantry, and there was no other way because of mechanicals in the walls and all kinds of things. That was the entrance, period, that you couldn't move the door. It was not, it could be moved, but there was no place to put the door. And it was a huge walk-in pantry. So what they did is they made all cabinetry on that L-shaped wall. And where that pantry door was, you opened these real tall floor-to-ceiling cabinet doors for the walk-in pantry. You open it up, and inside was this empty cabinet. It was beautifully finished. It was real pretty with lighting.
Oh, wow.
And you walk through that into the pantry. True definition of a walk-in pantry. But the woman got her all cabinetry look and still had that large pantry. So
well, those are great stories. Thank you so much for sharing them. I want to, if someone wants to contact you, if they're interested in exploring their options for kitchens or baths, how do they do that?
Well, anyone is absolutely welcome to call me, and I'll give my information. But if you really want to get right to the heart of the matter, since I am not a designer, I'm the wife of a designer. If you reach out to my husband, Hans Schuon at skbi.com, and it's HANSSCHUON at skbi.com, and his cell is 678-230-3572. This business is, after 30 years, it's a passion as well as a business, and he's willing to help anyone figure out how to start, what to do, how to solve a problem. Just bring it on. We're here to help, and we love what we do. So
well, and your passion comes through during the interview, and 30 years in business is a testimony to the value that the firm brings to the marketplace. So I want to thank Martha, Kelly, and Tim all for being on ProfitSense today. So if you want to keep up with the latest in pro business news, follow us on social media for the latest stories. If you want to listen to future ProfitSense podcasts, you can find us on ProfitSenseRadio.com. This is ProfitSense with Bill McDermott signing off. Make it a great day.